This is Abdul Saad, clinical psychologist here at Vital Mind Psychology here in Sydney, Australia. Coming to you today with a new video in our ongoing series on men, masculinity and masculine development. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing the nice guy's downward spiral, resentful, cynic or pseudo-alpha male. And in this video, I want to clarify a bit more some of my observations regarding the downward spiral nice guys can enter into once the whole paradigm of niceness, of giving to get, of the covert contract, of the highly emotionally sensitive guy who gets burnt by the world, once that paradigm begins to crumble, what are the trajectories that the nice guy can take in terms of things going from sort of bad to worse, the downward spiral? So after the nice guy's paradigm of niceness, of giving to get, of the covert contracts, of the suppression of his masculine authority, and of trading being liked of trading being respected for being liked. So once all this crumbles, for example, through marital breakdown, financial disaster, lack of career progression, ongoing loneliness, or a combination of these factors, there are two main downward spirals the nice guy can take. The first one is what we call the highly resentful cynic, or what I call the highly resentful cynic. And when the nice guy goes toward becoming a highly resentful cynic, he becomes a misanthrope who can no longer see the good in anything or anyone. He feels defeated and inhibited and cowers away into a world of righteous indignation, judgment and blaming. Psychologically, his mind is filled with judgment and condemnation, and physically, he's often weakened and depleted, often succumbing to all forms of physical maladies as well as poor lifestyle habits. So nice guys who go into this resentful cynic mode often have gained a lot of weight. They are in a chronically low energy state, they're quite fatigued, and they have succumbed to the path of least resistance when it comes to their lifestyle habits and diet and so on. Now, many nice guys who also are devolving into the resentful cynic can become workaholic. So they aren't necessarily all couch potatoes who are sitting at home. Workaholism can also become a manifestation of this resentment, where the nice guy buries his head in the sand, becomes a workaholic, and becomes oblivious to what is happening in the outside world, although maintaining that internal sense of resentment and cynicism. Now, psychologically, the move toward the resentful cynic represents the ongoing lack of proper expression of the nice guy's male authority. He's resentful and cynical, but he's still a nice guy underneath and has perfected the art of being passive-aggressive. So basically, he's still operating from that nice guy paradigm, except now there's a lot more conscious hostility which he is suppressing. So no longer able to neutralize his aggressive impulses and convert them into niceness, what in psychodynamic psychology would be called a reaction formation as a defense mechanism. Now these aggressive impulses find their expression through passive-aggressive behavior, verbal hostility, and in extreme cases, acts of violence and madness, sometimes on a horrific mass scale, such as we see in mass shootings, most recently this mass shooting in Las Vegas, which has obviously made headlines around the world. So that's one downward spiral the nice guy can take. He becomes a highly resentful cynic, a misanthrope, hostile and negative toward reality, highly resentful. The other downward spiral the nice guy can take is he moves toward the pseudo-alpha male. So in this trajectory, the nice guy is no longer constrained by the nice guy mode, and he becomes angry at the lost and wasted opportunities that the nice guy mode imposed upon him. So the nice guy going down this trajectory becomes obsessed with all that is prototypically masculine. And what we see in our society today, in the growth in pickup culture, in pickup artists, and in droves of men rushing to learn the art of what's called game, basically learning how to pick up women, represents the failure of the nice guy paradigm and its devolution toward the pseudo-alpha masculinity. So often these men have given up any hope of finding a lasting and fulfilling relationship and instead opt for as many sexual encounters as they can have as a substitute. Now, if these nice guys work hard enough on developing their game, as is now called in pickup culture, but don't work on much else in terms of his personal development, this sort of nice guy may well become highly sexually successful, which further reinforces his negative views of women. In other words, look, they were not willing to sleep with me when I was nice, when I was an emotionally sensitive, highly reciprocal sort of guy, but they're willing to sleep with me now that I've learnt tricks and tactics and techniques for how to engage them and create sexual chemistry. So in the end, he finds himself empty. Even if he is more sexually successful, the yearning for a stable romantic relationship is perpetually endangered by the fact that he feels he has been burnt by women so many times in his past, and his respect for women becomes all but skin deep. So I've very briefly summarized these two dynamics here, which the nice guy can devolve down, these two paths. But it's important to recognize here, if you're a viewer of this video, especially if you're a woman, that I don't want you to look at this dynamic in a vacuum. I don't want this to be one other reason to demonize men. And I don't want these videos to operate in a way which we call a confirmation bias, where you say, well, of course, that's why this happened to me, and I've been married to a nice guy. Because you have to understand that this dynamic, the increasing droves of nice guys that our society is producing, isn't occurring in a vacuum. And I think it would be wrong to, although the individual man does bear personal responsibility, it would be incorrect or inaccurate to diagnose the issue at the level of the individual solely and not look at the wider social context that is causing so much destruction for so many men, and which has a flow-on effect obviously to women who are today complaining in increasing numbers that they are unable to find stable, fulfilling romantic relationships and partners. So some of the things that have contributed to this whole nice guy dynamic and the erosion of masculinity, well, a couple of things. One, the loss of masculine integrity has come about due to several factors. A cultural war on masculinity. We're confused about masculinity. It's increasingly being portrayed as something toxic, something to be socially engineered out of boys and men. There's confusion regarding what role men are to play today, especially with respect to their role as earners and protectors, which has been the fundamental sort of building block of masculine identity, and which has provided men with a very clear set of social structures, a clear social contract via which, if they abide by that contract, there are certain reciprocal flow-ons from that. And also, finally, the confusion of women today, it seems, with regard to what they want in a man. For many women, there is often a search for a mythical figure, a man who is both nice and highly emotionally sensitive, but also at the same time highly dominant and will assert his will. And they want this in the same guy at the same time, unable to see that there is an inherent contradiction in these two polarities. So that's producing this high degree of oscillation with women between sort of nice guys, pseudo-alpha males, and wishing they could have both in the one man. And often that is not a reality. And if you look at a lot of female sort of romance novels and the things in popular culture, that's often the archetypal sort of female fantasy, right? To rescue the pseudo-alpha and to turn him into sort of a nice guy, but he keeps his sort of pseudo-alpha masculine qualities. But I own him, he's mine, and I've sort of neutralized that masculine power that he has in a way that it's only directed towards me, the sexual exclusivity, the monogamy. And as we saw with the pseudo-alpha males, this is seldom the case. So I hope in this video I've given you some food for thought, because in the next video, which I think will complete this series, I think this series now is up to video number 5, so next one will be video 6. I'm going to be talking about 5 practical steps to break out of nice guy mode. Okay, I'll see you hopefully sometime next week. Take care. This is Abdul Saad from Sydney, Australia. All the best. God bless. Take care.